hi, howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. Yeah, oh yeah, and for everybody that was helping out here during the holiday season, and I really appreciate the fact that I got to actually have a Thanksgiving and a birthday. And even though I sort of spent them alone, at least I had all the trappings that go with that kind of stuff. Special thanks to Patty B for sending me a big box of Christmas presents to open on Christmas. And they're all individually wrapped, and I'm not opening them till Christmas, so I don't know what you actually sent me yet. But I did see the coffee packet in the top, which I still haven't opened. But oh boy, am I going to be drinking that on Christmas. So a big shout out and thanks to Patty B. Everybody else, if you want to help the show continue. My show has finally been remonetized by YouTube, which is spectacular, but they pay peanuts, so it's still not enough to really cut it. So I still need help from all of you guys. Anybody that can afford to throw something at me, the PayPal link is there in the description. Always live link. Click on it. Help us, and I will continue to bring shows to you, and you will get your name on the associate producer list in the crawl at the beginning of the show. You get to see your name on there because you helped. So that is greatly appreciated. So now that you guys survived 3 episodes in a row of horrifying tales of the Janoskwa, the Gugwe, the Wendigo, and other things that you never ever want to run into that aren't Bigfoot, we're going to get back to Bigfoot with the man himself. Ron Morehead is back with us, and today we're going to talk about all of Bigfoot's sneaky little tricks and the quantum Bigfoot. And so welcome back to the show, Ron Morehead.
Well, thank you very much, Duke. I appreciate you getting me back on. It's always fun to talk with you.
No, you can be on my show a million times as far as I'm concerned. Start clearing your schedule. But for this one, I can't have MK Davis on all the time, Ron. You have to come on sometimes. For this one, we're going to talk about your second and your third book, which is the Quantum Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot Revealed. We're going to do some revealing of Bigfoot here. And it's interesting that as much as we try and reveal them, they try and cloak themselves and hide. So this becomes problematic, and especially when you've got the those in the know that control the conversation don't want to talk about this subject unless it's just to ridicule it. And then the supposed scientific community, which are completely gutless and dogmatic and will only go along with what their bosses that are going to pay them tell them they're going to go along with. There's very little true science out there, in my opinion. So I have very little respect for scientists. And after reading the beginning of your third book, I was impressed by 2 things. First of all, I pretty much 100% agree with your assessment of the quantum Bigfoot. And the second thing is that science really pisses me off because these people aren't scientific. They're a bunch of dogmatic little soy-blooded bastards with no guts, and all they want to do is collect a paycheck. And real scientists have open minds and look at all the data. If you exclude part of the data set, you've already made up your mind, you know what's going on, which makes you not much of a scientist. So, yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Well, I try to bring those 2 camps together. That's what I've been wanting to do, because Al Berry, the guy we took up the camp that was up there to investigate, you hear me okay?
Yep, hear you just fine.
He had a master's degree in science. He said, stay with science. But the only science I knew was Newtonian physics, which we all learned in 5th grade. Everything's measurable, predictable, and anyway, it's not that way in the real world. We only see the 3rd dimensional world. And so finally I got onto what could be causing the mysteries that we're having up here, because you couldn't explain it with Newtonian physics, with just because you might hear something that isn't there. You might, one time we thought our camp was being torn apart. I think I mentioned this, and you look out there and nothing's changed. And just stuff like that happened. One time, we're 8 miles in the wilderness, 8,400 feet in elevation. I thought, real imposing place to get to, and I heard a car door slam. Well, come on. A lot of times you'll hear,
There's no car out there really much slamming a door off.
Well, then one of the guys heard a herd of horses coming at us, and that wasn't happening. There was no herd of horses up there. And just stuff like that, lights that would happen. And I saw a UFO up there one time, which I lost it behind the trees, but it was big, a big one. So anyway, that kind of got me into searching because there's more going on than what we can see and understand. That got me into quantum physics a little bit. And so I figured there's a scientific answer to everything. There's an answer to everything. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a question.
Play devil's advocate here for a second. With the weird sound thing, we know that their ability at mimicry is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. They can mimic all kinds of sounds, not just spoken languages, but everything. And, sometimes they're not 100% perfect, which gives you the little clue that, hey, that grouse over there, that sounds like it's 500-pound grouse over there. I don't think that's actually a grouse, or that bionic birds and that sort of thing. Now, one example we have from right here behind me is Mount Sentinel. And I've heard it once myself, and I had two other people that weren't even with me. One of them told me about it, and after the fact, I had heard it up there. And then another person that was here from California visiting drove up there in the morning while he was waiting for the rest of us to wake up and was running around recording sounds, and he recorded it. And the description of this sound is it doesn't sound like an animal or a human or anything. It sounds like a saw starting to cut through sheet metal and then sheet metal tearing. And we've all heard, I heard it, and these other two guys heard the same weird sound. So that tells me there's a Bigfoot up there that knows how to make that sound. He also does a bullfrog, too, but it's not believable. And the bullfrog's like 800 pounds, and it's sitting on a mountain nowhere near water. I've heard him do that one.
Yeah, you're right. We don't know the scope of how high they can go or how low they can go. Dr. Curlin's a reporter, engineer, sound engineer at the University of Wyoming. He said that he could only show what we had recorded on a cassette, and it went way above the human range and inside the human range and below. And I've heard people over the years say, I heard my dog's name being called, but my dog wasn't there. And I heard my name being called, and, nobody's there to do that. So, yeah, they can mimic about anything they want to. So I've gone with the theory because of that and because of what I've experienced, that maybe they can reach a vibrational frequency that can change their their matter into energy, and that would cause them to disappear. That's one of my chapters of my new book. So anyway, that may be too early to talk about that, but there's been some mysteries I've heard reports of over the years, and I think I'm tuning into it a little bit with my new idealistic views.
Well, I think you're right, because Bigfoot psychic Robin McCrae, who, Mind Speaks with him, has asked him a lot of these questions, and their answers tend to agree with what you're coming up with. The ones that they'll actually give us, because sometimes they won't answer a question directly. Apparently that, that mitigates their secrecy too much, so they can't tell us specific things. Like the most we've been able to get them to tell us when we asked them about the invisibility thing, is they said we bend light.
Yeah,
as I was telling you before we started recording, I got a picture from up the ghost town about 30 miles away from here from 5 years ago, and one of my friends from Alaska was with me and had this weird feeling something was behind her, turned around with her camera and took a picture. And she didn't see it at the time, but afterwards, when you look at the picture on the camera, there's this humanoid-shaped object bending the light around it. And right outside of the distortion field where this thing is, you can see in the trees in the background, there's Bigfoot peeking its head around one of the trees, also looking at the camera person. So, that tends to back up your theory a whole lot, because something was literally bending the light. It's going off at an angle, both sides of this object in the middle of it. And when you drew the outline around the object, it looked like a humanoid-shaped object reaching down, trying to touch the camera person. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good theory, because actually the military makes blankets. So they got blankets like that made from China that you put it over you and it bends the light around you.
Yeah,
and we've all seen that, I think. So bending light is not a big mystery. It's just something they don't carry blankets around with them, I don't think. But
no, they don't. There's some weird properties with their hair too, which may have something to do with it. But I think more of it has to do with them raising their vibrational level. And
I do too, but Shane Land, do you know Shane from Alaska? Yeah. He talks about that in his book, which I wrote the foreword to, which is nice to do. He's a good man.
Yeah.
And he's got a book called Oh, I forgot the name of it now. But anyway,
I'll look it up. We'll include it in the
it's
footnotes.
about the hair.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people talk about how octopus, cuttlefish, and squid, they all seem to have the ability to change their color underwater. You know, that's a trait that they've been given, or something made them like that, whatever. If these things have the same trait, maybe they could do it just that way. But I get into the scientific part of, not the biological part, but the scientific part of how matter and energy actually change. They're interchangeable according to quantum physics, according to Dr. Paul Dirac. He got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for that. Einstein had already done the equation for it. And anyway, Paul Dirac came and brought it out to light. And in a story, it's called antimatter. And for every proton, there's a positron. You know, it's just a matter of changing things around scientifically. But it's in quantum physics, and that's what I encourage anybody to look into, is the quantum physics, because everything, according to Dr. Christopher Breyer, West Texas A&M, works on the principles of quantum physics. Now, it rides on the backs of our three-dimensional Newtonian physics. It's there, though. Everything's there. And you find out, and I found out, that light has a frequency. Everything does. Everything has a vibrational frequency. And light's frequency is 430 to 770 terahertz. That's the frequency of light. All these other frequencies are out there. And if you don't see, you only see within that range. That's our light. That's us as humans.
Yeah. So if you shut off that range somehow, then whoever's looking at you will humanize anyway. They ain't going to see you.
Yeah. Or if you could expand your vision into another frequency,
yeah.
You could see them.
No, then you'd go insane because you could see all the things that are sneaking around all the time that we're not noticing. So, no. That's why God put up the veil, so that we wouldn't see things like that and go nuts. Example, Robert Boston, Bigfoot in Germany. Well, he was out doing research. He had a feeling something was coming up behind him. Turned around, got hit in the forehead with an orb. And it messed him up really bad for about a month.
Well, that's what happened to me. Okay, go ahead.
Well, with him, he could, for about a month afterwards, he could see through the veil. So he was seeing all these other entities walking around that we normally can't see, which was freaking him out really bad. And then when it finally wore off, he realized that he had deleted about 1 terabyte worth of stuff that he had collected for no reason. Why he got rid of it? He didn't want to get rid of it. That was a lot of time and money and effort. And then at the same time, he lost the ability to see through the veil. All of a sudden, he snapped out of it. And what the hell am I deleting all my videos for?
There's something else that might work in with that, and that's your sleep sequence. Because a lot of this stuff happens late at night, or when you're between your alpha and your theta sleep. Those two, we're in the beta state right now, but you go from here into the alpha state, which is you're not asleep, but you're not, it's kind of one of those lucid dreams where you're interacting. But I've seen, I think I mentioned just as a joke, but it wasn't really a joke. I did see, this happened to me more than once. I've seen something wakes me up at night, and all of a sudden something will grab my feet or something. I'll look up and see, thinking my wife's doing something to my feet, which is a no-no. But anyway, just for an instant, I'll see something going by, and sometimes it's kind of spooky, but I've learned to not be afraid of it because it happens to me too often. But it's right between those two states. When you're coming out of your theta into alpha, then all of a sudden it snaps you into your beta state right quick. You got those different states of sleep. So anyway, someday we'll all be in the gamma state. That's the best one you get. That's a really high vibrational state. But that could have something to do with these late night things too, because our vibrational frequency hits the Schumann resonance, which is the resonance of the Earth.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of animals, especially the ones that migrate, work with that on that frequency. So I'm trying to stay with science and all this. That way I'll maybe win the scientific community over to looking a little different. But in trying to qualify these scientists that are whatever you call them earlier, they spend a lot of money and a lot of time trying to get their academical box together. And they're stuck within those parameters of what academia teaches them. And a lot of people are. And they can't get out of that, or they'll lose their respect for their colleagues and all that. So they just don't even get into anything that isn't based on Newtonian physics, which is not out of the box at all.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
I know them.
don't forget, Ron, you've got to trust the science, as some idiot once said. Science is not a dogmatic thing. You're not supposed to have any kind of dogma. It's supposed to be free thinking, examine the evidence, make a decision based on that. Test your theory over and over again. Is there evidence to support it? There might be something to it. That's actual science. Rigidly saying this has conclusively been proven and that's the way it is, that isn't science, that's dogma. I have zero respect for people that do that.
Well, they're just looking for a paycheck, like you say, a lot of them.
Yeah, they want a paycheck.
Open-minded. I know exactly. Tesla said that what one man calls God, no one calls the laws of physics. So I put spirituality and physics together because it's outside, that's a good catch too. You find these academics that say, no, they have to be just flesh and blood. And I said, well, do you go to church on Sunday? But do you believe there's a God or something after you die? But then they think I'm getting religious. I'm not getting religious. I'm asking some serious question, And they say, yes, I do. Otherwise, they're an atheist, And I said, well, if you believe there's a God out there sitting up there in the sky watching everything you do, how come you can't believe in Bigfoot?
I had a Bigfoot experience around the show who had several really kind of creepy experiences with Bigfoot, but he was also a professional in the deliverance ministries. So he was like the non-Roman Catholic version of an exorcist. And he did like 3,000 of them before he finally passed away. And he had some interesting things to say about that. But his analysis of the Bible is that for people that don't believe that there's a woo-woo aspect to life, you need to go read your Bible again because it's full of woo-woo.
That's right. Yeah. It's quantum physics. Yeah, a lot of it is. So they are synonymous, in my opinion. And even Einstein said science without religion is blind. Religion without science is
lame.
Oh gosh, lame. Thank you very much.
Just read it earlier, so it's still fresh in my memory. Yeah, I agree with his assessment on that. And a lot of people seem to get this idea that there's somehow this gigantic conflict between science and religion. Well, was Einstein an atheist?
No.
Okay.
It was Tesla.
Yeah, it was no. Let's look at some of the other big names there. How about Mr. Evolution? Was he an atheist?
Darwin?
No, he wasn't an atheist.
Well, they separate all that stuff.
Artificial separation by later writers that are recreating history. As Steve Quayle said, the greatest cover-up in history is a cover-up of history. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like all those famous quotes. You have some good ones too, Ron. So don't worry.
I'd reach for them.
I'll start throwing some of them in there occasionally. I like to quote, famous researchers and stuff. But the problem with all of the woo-woo in Bigfoot is that even though it appears to be happening and you have enough reliable witnesses that have seen this stuff happening, being able to capture it on camera and some other quantifiable methodology where you can bring it back and show it to someone is nearly impossible. And even if you manage to pull that off, then you have the scientific problem of repeatability. Oh, Bigfoot, could you come over here cloaked and bend the light again so we can get another picture? So what can you actually test? And one of the things we started doing quite a few years ago, and we've done this multiple times, and because I have other researchers that contact me all the time, and occasionally one of them will tell me, hey, I got some Bigfoot hair. And I'll say, cool, let's test and see if it's Bigfoot hair. And they go, how do you do that? And I said, well, take a piece of paper or something that's one solid, nice, bright color, put a light on it, and put the hair on it. They tried it. And they actually one of them tried it while I was on the phone with them. And they said it disappeared. And I went, yes, exactly. It just took on the color of the background, didn't it? Yeah. You pull it a ways away from the paper, it's a hair again. You put it down on the paper, it's gone.
Good test.
Well, that was something we could actually test, and we all started every time. Some of these people, I didn't see them doing it. I was literally talking to one of them on the phone while they tried it, and other ones would try it and call me back and go, "Oh shit, Duke, it just disappeared." Like, yes. So they have some natural abilities with their hair that probably enables them to pull off some of this other stuff a little bit easier. We need more optics science guys involved in looking at this. Dragging the science guys that will actually take a look into it is really useful. Richard Soule, who I was talking earlier about leading the expedition for inevitably finding Bigfoot over there in Nebraska for all 3 hours, he's done a lot of work on walking around filming at night. And because of that, they've not only got eye shine, but they've got video of eye glow. So they got very curious about how exactly, without having 6 D-cell batteries crammed up their butts, are they managed to make light come out of their eyes. We've got it on camera. We know it's happening. Well, he talked to an expert in deep sea fish about the methodology which the deep sea fish use to illuminate themselves, luciferase, and how would this actually work with an eye. And he got curious enough to actually look into, could this be possible and how would it work? And what he said is that, well, if they're actually putting light out like that, it should at least light up a short distance around them. And Rich said, yeah, we got a picture of one standing with a branch over its head, and it's lighting up the bottom of the branch. So that matched up pretty good.
I had a report from a guy who was sitting, waiting on a trail, and a Bigfoot come by, and it had 2 glowing eyes that was actually shining the way on the trail. And I had that explained to me. A lot of little babies, when they're first born, their cones in their eyes will catch the light, and you can reflect it at night.
Yeah, it's almost like they've got eye shine like an animal. They've still got that. What is it, tapetum lucidum? I can't remember. I'm not an ophthalmologist. Although I need one. My glasses are out of date. Anyway. I need new eyeballs that work better again so I can see again. And Bigfoot can't sneak up on me so easy. It's embarrassing. One thing I thought was interesting is your theory that there are various kinds of them running around, and some are more hybridized with humans, some of them less so, some of them more advanced, some of them much less so. And that's exactly what I've been turning up with my research across continent and other parts of the world, is that same kind of pattern. There's certain groups that seem to be like really low tech. They barely even have a language. And then there's other ones that are like the space age guys that know all these weird paranormal tricks. They can speak in every language. They can mimic every sound. And they all look like Bigfoot. So what's going on with that? And that's the conclusion we've come to, too, that there's just like humans have the Amish that are driving around in, covered buggies. And at the same time, we've got guys like Elon Musk that are putting people in space. We're all humans, but there's different tech levels going on there. And the Bigfoot aren't using a technology like we would think of it. They're using, a paranormal technology of the abilities that they have that they've been progressively getting better at constantly for.
I also think, Duke, that there could be different types of them, not just different genomes, but I mean, different aliens have been on this planet. And different aliens have done different things to different species on this planet. I think we are made from the troglodytes. I mean, that's according to Anunnaki anyway, if you go follow that line. Let us make man in our image. Well, that was the Anunnaki did that. And that's something you can look at with the cuneiform texts. You don't just, it's not something you have to believe in. You can just look at it and get it. And it's been interpreted now. A lot of over 10,000 of them have. It's all the stuff that went on before our Bible and before, because the first thing I looked into, because I was a biblical student, and I'm not anymore as far as religious, but I am spiritual, like we all are. I find out there's 2 parts to us. We are a physical, biological body, which is going to die, we think. So everything dies. There's also the ethereal body, which is your consciousness. And that doesn't die. According to physics, energy, which we're all made of, cannot die. Everything's energy, frequency, and vibration. So get into that part, and it gives you a whole new view on dying. I'm not worried about dying.
Yeah, it gives you a view on the weird, what we call reality is very relative. And the double slit test proved that, because when nobody's paying any attention, all these little particles are going through this double slit and they're happy little waves. But as soon as a human looks at it, they turn back into particles. Oh shit, we're supposed to be particles. Busted. Turn back into particles again. Okay, so the only thing they can come up with after multiple ways of running this test over and over again is observation caused the change. If we can modify what we perceive to be matter just by observing it, reality is extremely relative, because you can modify it just by looking at it. Imagine what you could do if you figured out how to actually try to manipulate and modify it. And let's extrapolate a little bit further. And let's talk about somebody that's got a brain case about 3 times the size of a human with a really big brain that already has woo-woo powers. What happens to reality when they observe it?
Maybe they see a human.
Yeah, maybe they make us think all kinds of things around us are happening that aren't happening. Well, or things that aren't there actually are there, or things that are there actually aren't there.
It's the way we're made. We're made to be a lot more than what we're showing, what we are. I think humans are. We have been cut short. Not the way we're made. We're made to have everything, but I think that somewhere along the line, Anunnaki, I think, modified the genetic makeup of us again. They cut our telomeres so we can't live as long as we used to. They've done quite a bit to us, and we're just living it out right now, but they're not supposed to interfere. I don't think they are anymore, other than unless they can contact you through your pineal gland, which that's our source to all our feelings that our heart gets. I like to get into that too, because I think that's a receptor, our pineal gland in our head. And it has a direct connection to the heart, which has a memory, and it teaches this thing we got on our shoulders called the brain head. And the thing is, it's been conditioned by outside influences ever since you've been born. You've been told that this is that, and this is wrong, this is right, and that's the conditioning that your brain has. And when your heart gets these messages from the source out there, it has to be in coherence. Has to be in coherence with the brain, so the brain will listen to it and pay attention. That's the gut feeling I think that we get. You get a gut feeling you should go over there, and that's your analytical mind said, no, let's go over there. So it outrides it. And that's one of our problems. We have to learn how to meditate and get those things in coherence, all 3 of them working together. Once you get that, you'll know exactly what to do, because you'll go by your feelings and not by your conditioned head, because everybody's been conditioned. Even the guys that interpreted King James in 1611, those 36 scholars that he had, they had their conditioning. I mean, religion is, I might get some people off of this, but religion is made to put people in fear and control them. That started with Constantine, I think, 26, when he brought the Nicene group together in Nicaea. And he allowed four books from all these factions were teaching from the Gospels. And those 4 books had to be the only religion that's accepted. You had to accept that. And that's called the Nicene Creed. And anyway, that started off, because it was all brought together to control the crowd. Mm-hmm. And that's what Roman Catholics do now. They control the crowd. Mm-hmm. Through fear, a lot of it. Because personally, I don't believe in a hell. I just don't, because it doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, how do we get off here? This isn't Sunday.
Well, hell is made as a prison for the bad guys. The humans aren't even supposed to be there. But yeah, let's not waste a lot of time talking about that. We're supposed to be talking about quantum Bigfoot here. Another thing that makes me wonder, assuming that they've got these other capabilities that we don't have anymore, why don't we have them anymore? And realistically, we should still have them. And there's probably 2 things that are leading into this. First of all, back in the day when there were actually shamans and stuff that were trained to do a lot of this, and there still are some, and they're still apparently pretty good at it. Well, it just kind of dropped out of cultural favor because of this hard mechanistical outlook that the West had, that, you know, everything is mechanical and there's no woo and there's no spirit and none of that kind of garbage. Kind of stamped out a lot of it. And the other problem is that, especially here in the West, where we have fluoride in our water, that calcifies your pineal gland. And your pineal gland is the part of you that you need to do all this woo-woo stuff. So if that part ain't working, you're not getting any messages and you're not doing any woo-woo stuff.
That's true. You're right on mark. Keep going. You're doing fine.
Apparently, it's extremely important because even if you go back to statues from Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago, and you'll see some of these where they've got these peculiar-looking characters that are holding one arm up with something in their hand. They got the other arm down holding some kind of a handbag looking thing. Okay. Well, this thing that they've got in their hand, it looks like a pine nut or something. And if you look at it closely, it's actually the pineal gland.
Right.
And that's a big hint right there. Here's what you need in order to be magical. This is your pineal gland.
You're right on it again. That's pretty good there.
Hey, I've been doing this for a long time, too.
You're impressing me.
I haven't got as much time in the field as you do, though. I'm only at, coming up on 48 years field research now. So I'm going to hit my 50 here in 2027. Hopefully I'll have some decent video of Bigfoot.
We're both graybacks by now. I call myself a grayback.
Yeah, we're silverbacks.
Yeah. But yeah, that's true. What you said. Pineal gland is very important. That's what the eye of Horus is, you know, the eye that you see depicted in the Egyptian stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So this kind of iconic representation of it has been around for at least 5,000 years, and it keeps popping up in all of the spiritual texts and all of these different religions and stuff in different forms over time, until fairly recently, when we got this mechanistic view of everything, and there's nothing spiritual, and there appears to be, you know, actually on purpose attempts to keep us from being able to develop this ability or use it. Which is, you know, I didn't want to think it was on purpose, but I did enough research on it, and I think, yeah, it's on purpose.
It's on purpose, yeah. The Anunnaki did it. Are we ready for that one? Because you can't get into quantum physics without getting into the Anunnaki and the stuff they did, because it was mind-boggling when you see those big megastructures down in southern Peru and places.
Yeah,
like
and you've been there and seen them firsthand. Freaking colossal.
Once you see them, you know, you realize we can't do that today, no matter what. No mortar, just put together like a jigsaw puzzle. But anyway, yeah, I think we have been shortened. I mean, we were given everything we were supposed to have. So let's make man in our image. I'm not getting religious again. Don't tell me that. but if we were given all those attributes, maybe Bigfoot was too, and maybe they can make things happen because they're not tied down to our three-dimensional environment unless they're walking around and they haven't gone out of our dimension into another one, which, by the way, they wouldn't age then.
Well, according to we actually got to ask the ones down in the south, the Sukulu, the slant-eyed ones down there that have round heads, what their view on the whole thing is. And we said, you know, according to our beliefs, God made us. And they're like, okay. Now they call God Tahoe. Okay, so is that what you guys think? Yeah, Tahoe made you. Okay, well, who made you? Tahoe made us. Okay, so Tahoe made you and he made the humans too. Did he make us here? No. We got made elsewhere and then brought here. That's their assessment.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's about as much information as you can usually get from them, and you're lucky to get any at all. So then you have to kind of assess it.
A lot of it's been passed down from generation to generation. Well, all of it has. You know, it could be. This sort of been here a long time.
Yeah.
I've had some people when I was being raised say, "Oh, there's only 6,000 years old." Well, I don't think so. You know, that always question that. And
6,000 years ago was the last time it got destroyed. That happened cyclically. So
that was more like 10,000 or 12,000 years ago in the last deluge we had. And that's
That's when Atlanta sank.
Well, maybe it happened then, but something washed out all the, there are those statues over in Easter Island now. They're digging them down and find out they're humongous. They got a whole body to them.
Yeah, it's not just the head sticking out of the
Right.
ground. They got the whole body too.
So what
And they also have weird stories about how they would make these things and then walk them across the island to put them into place.
Right.
Really strange. Because you know what one of these things freaking weighs? How are they going to do this exactly?
Well, and what made them get covered up with dirt?
Yeah.
The flood did, sediment and all that.
They were sitting up just a little bit of them, or on a pedestal. Some of them are still on a pedestal, but you're right. A lot of them are just buried and at wonky angles and stuff. And where did all that extra dirt come from that buried them?
Well, you got to get into Nazca lines too when you see those, what many think is an airship up on top of this mountain. But Al Berry had a master's degree in geology too. He's a mining geologist also. And he's a guy we took up to camp. I got to know him pretty well. And he's looking at that, and he couldn't get over it. He said, there's no slough off. In other words, they planed off that mountain, but where'd the dirt go?
Where'd the dirt go? Yeah.
Where'd the dirt go? He said,
exactly. What they do, vaporize it or something? It did. They haul it 100 miles away and hide it somewhere, so we never
know. But that always puzzled him. He says, I flew over those Nazca lines when I was down there. And
that's awesome.
Most people don't think about where the dirt went, just it planed off. They planed it off and took it somewhere, did something with it. It's crazy. A lot of crazy stuff on this planet. This has been here so many years.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to think within terms of maybe the flood, the big deluge of 10, 12,000 years ago, but been here longer than that. There's been more deluges prior to that.
Yep. And that's what that priest that was talking to Solon that later passed the story on to Plato, who wrote down about Atlanta. The Egyptian priest that told Solon the story said, "Oh, you Greeks are such babies. You don't know hardly any history. There's been multiple disasters. We got records of at least 3 great floods."
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
The Atlantis one was just the most recent big giant destruction. So what happened with the previous ones? Is that when Lemuria and Mu sank? And, Yonaguni right off the coast of the islands there in Japan. That thing quite deep underwater. The whole ocean level would have to be significantly different for that to be sitting on the surface like it apparently was when it was made. And then you've got even more terrifying examples of that, like the temple complex that they found in the Gulf of Mexico off of Cuba. And I was in Florida when they found that, and that was like front page news. That somebody had sent an ROV down there, found this thing, and went, maybe this is some kind of military installation or something, or contact them. And they did. They contacted them, went, do you guys have anything down here at these coordinates and stuff? Because otherwise we're going to release it. And they went, no, it's not ours. So they released it, and it looks like a Yucatan temple complex. But it's sitting so deep down there. The last time that area would have been exposed to the sun and been some place you could build on would have been over 50,000 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Well, they say that this has been inhabited, this planet, for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Not just
I believe that. And if you go back to the Anunnaki and the King's List and everything from them, some of those suckers lived 20, 30,000 years, and they were the ruler the whole time.
They reigned.
That's why they've got these vast ancient time period that they cover with their King's List until it gets up to, like 5,000, 6,000 years ago. Some of these kings lived, 20, 30,000.
Well, they're saying that those King's List, that's just misquoted. They couldn't be that old. Well, everybody's using their own thinking they're not thinking outside the box at what could be. I mean, how old is the universe? How far is the universe? How far is anything? How deep does this stuff go? It just keeps going. But those King's List, they'd reigned for, they took human form, and that's, oops, did I lose you?
No, I got you. You just moved around a little bit.
Yeah, my mouse is on.
Don't touch anything.
I did. I made a mistake. I did.
Well, the other thing is, though, all these kings are talking about, these are the same people that are the Anunnaki. So they're not humans. They're giants. You can't expect they're not even originally from Earth. So who knows how long they lived in the original home world.
Well, they probably live forever.
Yeah.
You know.
Physical immortality, basically. You could live 100,000 years before your body falls apart.
The reason they fell apart here is because they took human form. You know, they lived in a third dimensional environment.
Mm-hmm.
And they ruled for all these thousands of years. And they changed a lot of stuff that was on this planet and did a lot of stuff. And anyway, it's really interesting when you get into it, I think.
My favorite part is Gilgamesh, who's again like a demigod type, and of course he's got his rockin' sidekick Enkidu the Bigfoot, and they go around and kill monsters. I swear to God, it's like a comic book from 5,000 years ago.
I'm surprised somebody had made a movie on that, or have they?
Me too. I've never seen anything on it. I don't think anybody's connected the dots and went, "Hey, this would make a great movie." Durr.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Yep. And then after his buddy, the Bigfoot Enkidu, gets killed, then he goes on a quest to try and figure out how to attain immortality because he doesn't want to die at that point. He's like, oh, geez, even my best buddy that could, kick anything's ass got killed. That means I'm going to die at some point. I got to stop this. So that's the first hero's quest for immortality right there.
When you're in this dimension, you can die. You can give up this biological body anyway. You don't die. But your energy goes someplace. Well, it probably went back to Nibiru.
Probably. Yeah, they go to Nibiru and regroup. That's it. Well, it makes you question how long do Bigfoot live, too. And according to what they've been telling us, it's a lot longer than humans think they live.
Their telomeres maybe not have been trimmed off like ours are.
According to them, it has a lot to do with how much time they spend in our three-dimensional space, too, because they can part the veil, go into the fifth dimension where there's no time. They could spend a lot of time there that's passing here. No time there has passed.
Exactly.
So if they spend a lot of time on the other side of the veil, they could be hundreds of years.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And that's exactly right. In fact, I think I write about that in my book when if you slip out of this dimension, your time don't exist like we see it, like we experience it.
I know it's hard for us to even wrap our minds around that because we're so used to this linear, born, live, die. Everything has entropy. Everything decays and falls apart. Entropy may be the reason our universe exists, actually, because the second law of thermodynamics does absolutely cover everything. They haven't found any exceptions to that. And as things decay, they change form. So when God spoke the universe into existence, did he just say entropy? Because if you take nothing and you decay it, it breaks down to half a nothing and a plus nothing. A minus nothing and a plus nothing. And we're in the plus nothing universe. That's half of nothing.
Positron and electrons.
Yeah. So you break nothingness down into matter, positive matter and antimatter, and we're in the positive matter universe. So we're technically half of nothing.
That makes you feel real good, don't it?
Yeah. You're not even nothing. You're half of nothing. If you met the other half of nothing, you would annihilate. So you don't want to have that happen either. Fun with quantum physics. But again, getting back to the observational thing, it's very, very jarring that simple observation can make a difference on how matter reacts.
Are you there? Wait a minute.
Yep. Did you lose your sound? Quit pushing buttons, Ron.
I know. I'm trying to see myself again.
Don't worry about that. I can still see you. You're just probably up in the upper corner or something.
Oh, there we are. Now I can see me.
Okay.
Let's see if my hat's on straight or not.
There you go. Now you're crooked. You're all like lounge morehead with your hat on sideways. All right, let's get around the campfire and tell tall tales of things that really happened that'll scare you. I just find it very interesting that they're from my way of thinking, and I agree with what you said in the book, which I'll basically paraphrase it, woo-woo isn't really a thing. It's just there's certain things in science that we really don't have good vernacular to explain yet. We don't know exactly what is the mechanism that's causing it. Gravity. It's there. It's real. It's measurable. How exactly is it happening? Well, we're not sure yet. And that's a pretty old concept. You throw an apple up in the air, it tends to fall down and hit the ground. It doesn't usually fly away. So
That's that's my first book. Sample only, do not sell. Can't buy this one.
Oh man.
That's the difference between
Great
quantum
book though.
physics.
If you guys don't have Quantum Bigfoot and his new one, Bigfoot Unveiled, definitely get copies of them. They're both really good.
They're doing a documentary on this one right now, Voices of Wilderness.
Right
Should
on.
be out after first year.
Oh, they're going out to the actual location too, aren't they?
They did.
They did. Okay, cool.
And they interviewed Warren Johnson's youngest son, David, and at camp, like David Pilates interviewed me in 2018 up there. That's the last time I was up there. But they went in, big team went in, and I say big team. I think there was 4.
Ooh, gigantic.
Well, the more you get, the less aptitude. Less.
Oh, absolutely. We've been told by the ones up in our main research area that we're not allowed to have more than 6 people there, and we can't bring more than 2 new people at a time. And yeah, once they found out they could communicate with us, they started laying down the rules right away. That was the first thing. Can't go across the river. Can't go over here. Okay, thanks, guy. It would have been better if I wasn't talking to you and I could just pretend dumb and keep doing all this stupid stuff that's apparently pissing you off. But no. Well, yeah, it's better to be on the good side anyway. You know, and another thing that you mentioned about there being maybe not only just subvarieties, but completely different things. You get kind of backed up with the Indian epic, the Ramayana, on that one, because they talk about when Rama had to invade Sri Lanka and get his girlfriend back, who had been stolen by Ravana, the Demon King, who, by the way, had an army of giants, that he needed a way to get over there and an army to go with him. So he started talking to all of these, really powerful guys that were running the show in different parts of the world. And the Vinara volunteered to build a bridge for him, Adam's Bridge, which extends from the mainland of India all the way out to Sri Lanka, because he didn't really have a big navy and he didn't have enough Vimana to fly an army over. So they just built a causeway so he could march an army across it, because he figured he had plenty of volunteers. Well, as it turned out, the Vinara that made the causeway for him volunteered to go across it, because apparently they had some kind of grudge against these giants and they wanted to kill the shit out of them. And they were looking for an excuse, so they built them this causeway that was 1/4 mile wide and 10 miles long, all the way across the Bay of Bengal to Sri Lanka. Boy, they're pretty motivated. And then when you find out what the Vinara are, the description is that they're forest people. They don't wear clothes. They're covered with hair, and some of them are the size of elephants. Does this sound familiar? Now, the leader of the Vinara that was doing all this negotiating, he was more than happy to get all this done. Oh, we'll build you a causeway across there. Hey, can we be your army and go kill giants too? Sure. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, we're in. He had another ambassador there that it was specifically said was from the Himalayas and represented a group from there. They were very similar to the Vinara, but they weren't the same. These are the Yetis. And Rama turned down his help. He said, we've got plenty of help with the Vinara right now. They'll take care of it. Appreciate that you're willing to help and everything, but, keep your guys up there in the mountains, thank you. So, like, even Rama didn't want to deal with these things. He gave him the polite, no, thanks for offering your aid. But I got the Sasquatch down here helping him. They really want to kill these giants, so I think we're going with them. And I kind of questioned that. I went, well, you can't really say the Vinara actually are the Bigfoot, because if you look at the carvings of them on the temple walls still extant, it always depicts them as monkey men, but they have tails like a monkey. And the real expert on this stuff, Praveen Mohan, actually went through this on one of his shows where he had those carvings on there. And he went, you look at these, they're more recently carved. They're depicting the Vinara as having tails. If you look at the original Sanskrit description of them, nowhere does it say that they have tails. These are what you guys in the West call Sasquatch. And I just went, bing, are you kidding me? So then I went and looked up this video of 2 Sanskrit scholars arguing about this and talking about this one thing with the Vinara, and they both agreed the Vinara do not have tails. Nowhere in the description does it say they have tails. That was something added on later. So thank you very much, Praveen. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, that was very exciting. But again, this is just proof that they've been around forever. This is going back, at least 6,000 years ago to when those things were written about all the weird wars that were going on over there. And probably when, some of these they found several of these cities destroyed and like partially melted, including
Mm.
one that was completely vitrified over in India, turned to glass and radioactive. So somebody was having a limited nuclear war a few thousand years ago, too. We've got the evidence for it.
Mm.
And this may be about the same time that there was the Great Deluge and everything else went to bleep.
Yeah. Mm. Interesting stuff. There's so much history that people need to know that they don't know. I learn something every day just about. But about the Guadalcanal over in where the Guadalcanal is.
Yeah.
The Japanese were reporting seeing giants there. There's a
Solomon
book.
Islands.
Yeah, so there you go, Solomon Islands.
There's a lot of reports in that area. I was just talking to Kelly Shaw earlier, and he was mentioning he got a Yowie report with a picture from northern Australia, and he was looking at how close it is to those island chains. And I said, yeah, all those island chains also have reports of the Monday Burung on them, which is, again, the same thing as Sasquatch. But in the Solomon Islands and some of those, they've got giants that aren't the Monday Burung that eat people, according to them.
There's a whole book on that,
Yeah, I've actually got that, Solomon Island Mysteries by Marius Gordon.
Yeah. They started doing gold mining there in '98, I think it was, and they had to take a dozer in, but they left the blade there. They'd take it in to get it repaired or something. And came out the next day, I guess those huge tracks were there, huge tracks.
And the blade was gone.
The blade was gone. They were way up 100 yards away or something like that.
In the jungle, too.
Yeah,
and that was the other thing. When they looked at it, they didn't see any tracks leading right up to it from the edge of the jungle. They figured it flung it in the woods, which scared the hell out of me even more, because this blade made multiple tons in weight.
Oh,
so what can pick up something that big?
Well,
not even a Bigfoot.
Unless they know how to sound, with the sound.
Throw things around with sound, yeah. And that may be how the giants are building some of that stuff. Getting back to the giants being builders, one of the prime builders in the ancient Egyptian history, they found his tomb recently, and it's got, of course, as you would expect, beautiful murals on the inside of the walls and stuff that show what he was doing during his life. He was one of the top engineers and builders for the Egyptian dynasty when he was alive. So it shows how everything is being made, how people are chiseling out all of the different designs on these big obelisks before they put them up, and they're shaping all these statues and stuff. And then it shows the giants actually setting them up.
Hmm.
The humans are doing all the carvings. The giants are setting this shit up. So if this, again, why would they make this up? This is supposed to be a flat-out depiction of what he was doing during his life. Humans and everything else are depicted normally, but there's these other guys in this, like here's the little guys down here carving, here's the giant guy putting the obelisk up by himself. What?
Yeah, that would have been a tough thing to do if you were human.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you're truthfully depicting what was going on during his life to give him credit for how great of a builder he was, and these obelisks were being erected by like scaffolds and pulleys and ramps and however else they think that they were doing it, why didn't they just depict that? Why did they make this fanciful thing of a giant putting it in a position?
Yeah, good question. You ought to ask him that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the next time I get within arm's reach, I'll be slapping him first before I ask him any questions. But Egyptology is the flimsiest of sciences, quote unquote. And you can take that quote from me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy to refute. There's a lot of other experts over there that have looked at it and gone, you guys didn't even build this stuff. You just inhabited it after it fell apart. Quit freaking lying. Let's talk about the culture that actually made it.
Yeah. It bothers me to see all these articles coming out. Look what the Incas did. How much ingenuity they had to put those stones and chip all these things away. Well, they didn't have the tools. Yeah. The Incas didn't. It had to be pre-Inca. And you can see when you're down there where the Spaniards built on top of the Incas had built on top of the pre-Inca people, whoever they were. They had the elongated skulls, so.
Yep.
And we think that's why the Inca babies, they were cradleboard,
Because they wanted them to look like the ruler class.
Well, they thought it would give them the ability to do that stuff. But We think that's what they did. It had to give that kid a poor headache. Can you imagine having your skull? It was only the royalty.
There's still a tribe over in Africa that does that head binding and stuff to try and make the elongated skulls and everything.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, why did that all start? And then you find those skulls that are like clearly not human. They don't have the surgical suture on the top or anything.
Exactly.
You can't create that with cradle board.
The one right behind my shoulder here, you see it?
Yep. Yep.
Well, I can't see how long it is, but it's got the elongated, but there's no sagittal suture down the top. Yep. And right in the back of it, there's two little pinholes, too, which we have no idea what those are about.
That's the other anomaly, yep. I think they got labeled as, what is it? They're called Homo capensis. They're not Homo sapiens, they are Homo capensis. And that means they're also not Denisovan or Neanderthals or any of that kind of stuff. And you get these conehead guys not just in South America, they've been found in other parts of the world too. So apparently they were fairly widespread at one point, and according to the depictions in some of these old art, it looks like the ruler class were these guys, whoever the hell they were. And this could, again, easily go back to the Anunnaki, or at least one branch of them.
Well, the Egyptians got quite a bit of that, too.
Yeah.
The elongation.
Yeah.
But like you say, just the royalty.
Yeah. Depictions of Akhenaten and Tutankhamun both have them with those weird cone heads.
Yeah.
And if you remember, they got overthrown because Akhenaten was starting like a one religion type thing, just worshiping the Ankh, and all the other priesthoods went, screw this, we got to get rid of this guy, so we can go back to polytheism and we can all make money. And then Tut mysteriously died.
What was it, 19 or something like that?
Yeah.
They ruled for a few years.
But then look at the rulers after that. The pharaohs that they found have normal skulls.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't probably descendants of the gods.
Well, exactly. Akhenaten and Tutankhamun, they took them out. There's the bloodline. There was one female member that also, they've got her remains, but after that, you don't find that. So that may have been the end of that alien bloodline for Egyptian rulers at that point.
Well, we'll get all these answers one of these days. We'll probably have to get it in our theoretical realm after biological nobody dies. We'll know everything then. We won't have any questions.
Screw that. I'm going to just cheat and talk to Bigfoot.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Well, was there anything else that we forgot to cover that we should probably get in this show?
Oh, just my email address, or not my email, but my website.
Got to get the website.
It's really easy. RonMorehead.com.
My God, if you can't remember that, you're even dumber than me.
No dot or nothing, just RonMorehead.com.
RonMorehead.com. No breaks in between. No fancy schmancy spelling.
Right.
Just RonMorehead.com. And you too can reach Ron, and you should be encouraged to take advantage of the fact that those recordings of the Sierra Sounds are out there, and also to get your hands on his books because they are worth having. And again, you got that new documentary coming up. When are they saying that's going to be out?
First part of the year.
Oh, sweet. So that's coming up soon.
3 months, probably. March, maybe. This book here at page 126 has a link on it where this is my chronicle here. Got me started. This is my first book. And if you punch into that link, you can hear the sound that I'm talking about. So you can hear 26 sound bites that I talk about in this book. So when I get to the context of it, you can click on that and hear the sound.
Then read the context.
Or read the context, then, well, it'll tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And those are all downloadable, too. They're downloadable on my website.
Awesome. Well, once again, always an honor having you on the show, and I hope at some point in the future we can have you on again, because I'd like to talk about some of your adventures traveling around to other parts of the world and investigating these megaliths and looking for weird things like where exactly along the Toba Inlet was this guy kidnapped from? And, going to Portlock and some of these other really Bigfooty places that you visited.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. You've been there.
I went up there.
Actually been there.
I went up with a filmer and a Peter Byrne, you might have heard that name.
Yep, very
and
famous.
Alan Berry, and we flew up there in my plane, and we landed Camel River, and then next day I flew for 7 hours, real slow, flying over that whole area trying to find a bull that Albert Ostman said he was in. Never could find anything that resembled that, but we got to talk about it later. We don't think he was in Toba Inlet. I mean, I talked to John Green about that, and he thought I was calling Ostman a liar. I said, no, I don't believe that. I think he just got confused. A lot of inlets up there, a lot of inlets.
Yeah.
And but
the
I
other
think he
wild
was.
card in there is that even if he was somewhat accurate about where he got dropped off or where he thought he was at the point where he got picked up, how do we know how far exactly that Bigfoot went with him?
Right. He just talked about how long and how uncomfortable it was being on his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, we have no idea how they can run 45 miles an hour. So if he's on his, he's on his shoulder for 3 hours, that can equal a lot of distance.
If he was running, yeah. But you keep going, you're over Whistler, where people are, and I don't think it's. Well, I don't know. We don't know. We never could find it. Peter will go back up there, but I couldn't at the time. And anyway, my gas too.
Yeah. Then you got the other one, Muchle Harry, who was apparently kidnapped by an even larger group of them, and that was also near that area, and within only a couple of years of it. So that's really, it wasn't just him. This was going on at the time apparently, and Muchle Harry was lucky to get away from him.
Yeah, I think. Well, so was Albert Ostman, I think.
Yeah, both of them were.
He got sick on his chewing tobacco, I think it was. The big male was watching him, and he swallowed it. He didn't know when he was supposed to eat it. And,
well, then he tried to wash it down with hot coffee, too, which also probably didn't help.
Probably, heck with this guy. I ain't even going to chase him.
Everything humans eat and drink is disgusting. Get out of here. Let him run away.
Well, we dropped down where we could see Mount Baker and tried to find, where we drove. I flew all the way up into Toba Inlet and circled around there. Got to 1,000 feet where he said he was. We'd seen the ships out in the harbor. You couldn't see the ships out in the harbor from where he would have been. Mm-hmm. So we kind of come to the conclusion that he was interviewed, 30 years later? It was 124, and John Green interviewed him in 1950s, early 50s. So I think he just looked at a map and said, this is where it was. I don't know, but it just didn't make sense that everything about his story would fit with Toba Inlet. However, coming out of it, when he described everything he'd seen, we'd seen Mount Baker across this ravine and all that. We read his story quite thoroughly before we went up there. Just couldn't put it together, I think. But you look at it, and it's a long distance to walk, and he came out in that one place. Anyway.
No, I think that's just fascinating. And again, I'm really glad that somebody went up there and did the research on it. And I agree with your assessment, because I've had this happen with me. I was hitchhiking around with my cousin summer 1980, and we were somewhere out by the Utah border, went off the road, hiked up a river into the mountains for about a week, and hiked back again. And I've since then been trying to find this on a map and figure out where we were at. Nope. That was only 40 years ago, and this area hasn't changed that much. Yeah. So it should been able to find it, but nope.
Well, I believe Albert Ostman's story. I just don't believe the Toba Inlet part of it.
Yeah.
He was pretty thorough and pretty descriptive about these. He also told John Green that they were chattering amongst themselves. That's the same word we use when we heard them chattering up there at the Cedar Camp. So you got a lot of people say they hear that, but who knows what it is? Sounds like a bunch of people out there somewhere. Yeah. There's not.
Yeah. Oh God, no. So yeah.
Anyway, it's fun life.
Fun life. It ain't over yet. More adventures yet to come with the amazing Ron Morehead. We're going to have him back on the show again, and this time we'll just talk about adventures. We'll talk about all these Bigfoot investigation adventures you've been on, so people can get the benefit of, hey, wasn't Ron Morehead actually there? Let's hear what Ron has to say about this.
Yeah, well, the biggest one is Peru. They went down there, went over the Nazca line, went into Inca, went into Bolivia, went around Lake Titicaca, which is 13,000 feet above sea level. Yet there's remains there that shows it was at sea level.
Yeah. How did that happen exactly?
Well, And I went into Pumapuku and saw a lot of sites up there. But some of the stuff you see down there just blows your mind.
Yep. And again, like you pointed out earlier, the older constructions on the bottom are a lot more precise and amazing than the constructions built on top of them since then, as we're supposedly advancing, but yet the older stuff is way better.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you see that all over down there. You see where the pre-Inca people, we'll call them Paracas people, I think.
Right.
And where they had these monolithic structures that were so big, seamlessly. I mean, no...
You can't insert a playing card in the gaps. They don't have it more.
Yet you see where the Incas played on that to build the structure back up to do something with it, and then you see where the Spaniards went over that, and you can just see the timeline. It just, I think they use sound. That's what I think. That's what a lot of people think, that if you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. That's quantum physics, by the way.
Oh,
that's Einstein.
There we are, back to quantum physics.
Well, you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. I think that's how miracles are done. I think that's some people, some shamans or whatever, could do it really easily. We could do it if we learn how to keep all this in rhythm and do it right. But I think that's what's happening. Everything, all matter can be changed if you find the right frequency.
Yep. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter.
I hear that a lot.
Mind is still over matter, because if you look at it, it changes its form and goes, well, we're not waves now, we're particles.
Well, look at the...
How you're looking, we're particles.
Skinwalker Ranch, the book. Where the wolf,
you
know, they shot it. You've read that book, haven't you? Or have you? Yeah.
Well, I know quite a bit about Skinwalker Ranch. And that's another good example of observation changing things, because whatever seems like there's an entity that likes to play with them and make things that, you know, they expect to see show up, or things they really don't expect to see show. Just like as if it's testing them.
Well, they do that. These things will play with you. They toy with you. They think that we think we're smarter than them. And we do think that, but we're not the alpha male on this planet. We're just not.
No. We're doing our best to muddle through. But anyway, I guess we'll let you guys go. Again, Merry upcoming Christmas, Happy New Year. And just for those of you that have been requesting it over and over and over and over and over and over, Merry Glagmas. Glag returns to World Bigfoot Central. Updated, revamped versions of the entire Glag saga are coming out, one right after the other. So have a heyday, all you Glagaholics that have been jonesing for a few years. Glag is back, and Kevin may have passed away, but Glag lives. And so thanks to everybody. You can look forward to that. Thanks very much to Ron for being here. You're the best, brother.
Oh, thank you, Duke. I appreciate you having me on. Good luck over the holidays.
Right on. Everybody, again, pray for peace.
Have a good Christmas. Yeah.
There you go. And Merry Christmas from me, too. Everybody pray for world peace. And we'll see you after the beginning of the year with new shows, which I have some really cool ones lined up here, including M.K. Davis goes in search of the Honey Island Swamp Monster, and an actual researcher from Czechoslovakia. Yeah, it's all coming up. Take care, everybody. Love you. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Make sure that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee.